blast off. Hey, good evening. A summer, soon to be, when's summer? Tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow night at 10 o'clock.
Soon to be summer evening. We went from early spring to summer in a matter of a week. Heat waves coming. We are alive. This is Hall Hoops and Happenings. Your host, Bobby Blackjack. Sorry, I'm a little out of it today. With my co-host to my right, Nick from Milburn. What's up, buddy?
Hey, guys. Happy Juneteenth, everyone.
Paul Just a Fan in the corner.
Hi, guys.
And our fashion correspondent down the corner, the Gister, Nicole Gizzy. What's up?
Hello, everyone. Good evening.
So what's going on, family? It's another week of 2 open roster spots. Okay, we're not going to mention how size matters on the show because we all know that's not a thing.
Another cheap way to try to get views. We don't do that here. He has tried every trick in the book, and I don't think any of it's working. But just do a good job, and people will watch. That's all. Good content, not hard.
Yeah. Yankees finally won a game after somehow disappearing with their offense.
As Judge goes, the Yankees go, right? And Judge got a double today.
And again, we'll start doing a Yankee show eventually. I think it'll be a lot of fun. With Paul's research and our expertise at Yankee baseball. But we're truly watching. It's become pretty apparent we are truly watching something special with Aaron Judge. Mm-hmm. He's not your average. No. He's almost at that Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle, Joe D level now.
Let me throw this out to you guys. I think we might have talked about this before, but what would be more amazing, Judge hitting 300 or 400 or winning the Triple Crown? What would be harder? I think hitting 400 myself, because it hasn't been done since Ted Williams in 1941, probably before Nicole's parents were born. But yeah, what do you guys think?
No, exactly. And even 375 will be remarkable.
Yeah.
It's if you look at half these rosters now, even with the Yankees, some of our best hitters are hitting like 250.
Mm-hmm. Right. In baseball, right? Not just everywhere.
So yeah, exactly. So that's considered an all-star player right there, right?
Right.
So someone who was over 100 something points above that. Gister, I know you're a hockey fan. Any oh, by the way, I don't know if you guys saw this video. Apparently, they were partying. The Florida Panthers were partying the other night, and the guy went up to his neighbor's doorbell at 5 o'clock in the morning and rang it to show off the Stanley Cup. That's pretty cool. That's one thing about that the sports is missing is having something iconic like the Stanley Cup. What do you got, Gister?
I watched that game. I'm so glad I did. 5 former Devils were on that cup-winning team, and one of them being the goaltender that I got to meet 2 Januaries ago, Vitek Vanacek. He was the backup goaltender. I don't think he actually got any minutes during the Stanley Cup playoffs this season, but it was so great to see him cheering with the rest of the team and some of the former Devils. It made me hopeful. Hopefully in my lifetime I get to see a Devils Stanley Cup. I will say, too, immediately off the bat, Sergei Bobrovsky, he was a starting goaltender. One of the reporters asked him what this moment meant to him, and the first thing he said was, "Pray, I want to thank the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Glory to God." He literally went. That's the first thing he said, and that gave me chills. Like, being so open about that now. Most sports players would never even talk about that a couple of years ago. And there was another thing that happened. Yeah. A couple of the injury reports came out, like not even after the cup was awarded. Alexander Barkov, the captain, he apparently sliced his hand open game 1 of the Stanley Cup final, and he had it wrapped and everything, and he still hoisted that cup after Gary Bettman gave it to him. Second injury, Matthew Tkachuk. He was one of the enforcers in the on Team USA for 4 Nations face-off. He had something where he had an adductor that had separated from his bone, and on the same side of his body, he had a hernia, and he still played through that whole thing. I'm telling
Nobody
you.
is tough as hockey players.
No,
They are
hockey
Absolutely.
players are a different breed.
different breed.
That's how I like to put it. And it's really the greatest sport ever. I love it.
Nicole,
real quick,
do you
Mr. Hathaway,
think
do you want to
Florida-
join us? I'm sorry, Nick.
I'm going. Where's
Bill,
William?
If you want to join us, text me. I'll send you a link.
Nicole, and I was listening to Boomer the other morning, and he's a big hockey fan. Do you think Florida has an advantage because they're in Florida with no state income tax?
I don't think it has anything to do with it.
Oh yeah,
It does. It
absolutely.
does.
It happens
It does.
all the time.
Yeah, because California has what, 10% state. So take 10% of whatever millions of dollars. That's a lot of money you're saving by going to Florida. Plus, you got awesome weather. Plus, you have an insane fan base. So I think we could see a Florida dynasty for a while.
I mean, your ability to play has nothing to do with state income tax.
Your what?
Your ability to play.
No, their ability to get players.
Oh, I thought you
Players,
meant like,
no, players will go there because they're going to make more money in
Oh
Florida.
yeah, that's why the Tampa Bay Lightning were what do you call? A couple of years ago, a bunch of the New York Rangers were retiring down to Tampa Bay to play before they retired. So they kept calling the Tampa Bay Lightning the New York retirees or whatever.
There you go. That's an advantage for whatever reason, more than in hockey.
Well, you know that there hasn't been a Canadian Stanley Cup winner in forever.
Yep.
And Nick, I think that things like exchange rates, and the higher tax rates in Canada make it harder for the Canadian teams to keep the talent. I know that when players were signed to the Toronto Blue Jays, I remember reading that the contracts would be in American dollars, and the exchange rate became very important to how those guys were getting paid. So I think that when, especially in a league in the NHL where there's 6 or 7 Canadian franchises, I think that makes it difficult to keep the guys, keep the players there.
Last Stanley Cup won by a Canadian team was in 1993 when the Montreal Canadiens defeated the LA Kings.
And when I was growing up, Montreal was winning it like every year.
Yep.
So, guys, before we were talking about saw some of the comments in our group and whatnot, and about the big men, right? We're missing big men, obviously, on our roster. We have 2 open spots. There's something that just kind of hit my mind at that moment. Bill's working at the moment. Okay, thanks, Bill. So, again, so we know the Knicks lost. They fired Thibodeau, right? Thibodeau. Wasn't Mark Bryant on that coaching staff?
Yes.
Yes,
Now,
he is.
Wouldn't this be a great time to bring in Mark Bryant as an assistant coach, maybe even a GM, and help bring in some big guys? Because think about it. We have a great former point guard as our coach. Bill Meyer is now in NJIT for now, right? He was the big guy coach. He did a very, very good job.
Yes.
And whatnot. And now all of a sudden, we're not getting big guys anymore. God's will withstanding. So I was thinking maybe it's time we try to bring Mark Bryant in as assistant coach, or something of a higher nature, a GM, and help start bringing some big guys into our program.
When Louis was the coach of St. John's, he brought in as a volunteer assistant Willis Reed from the Knicks, formerly of the Knicks, to sit on his bench and work with the big men. And Willis did a great job with Walter Berry. So yeah, that's a great idea. I don't know if Mark Bryant would probably be a pay cut from the Knicks to Seton Hall, but if he has aspirations to be a head coach or a college coach, that's not a bad idea. Mark Bryant grew up on Eder Terrace, right down the street from the campus. He played I coached against him when he played for the South Orange Villagers, and they had one of the best eighth grade teams in the state. So yeah, a lot of history with Mark and the university, and his number is still not retired.
I told you why.
Why?
You know, I'm good friends with his. Used to do a lot of stuff. I'm friends with his sister, and she had told me because he never graduated.
Oh, Gail Bryant.
Gail, yes.
Yeah.
Now,
Okay,
Nick,
then why isn't Danny Calandrillo's number retired? Because he did graduate.
That's another story.
Yeah, I don't get. I just
That's where we
don't
got to get. We got to work on getting our friend Dan Dunn back on.
Yeah.
We're going to start working on his project real soon, and maybe get him and Dan on so we can talk about that.
Dan Dunn is 100% for Danny Calandrillo getting his. It's like Danny's next, and they had like Danny Calandrillo Day and Mark Bryant Day at the Rock this year. I know Nicole was there, and their numbers aren't retired. I don't get that one. I really don't. That's a simple one.
now, Nick, when the Knicks bring in a new head coach, assuming they can find one, I would imagine that whomever they're going to bring in is going to want his own assistants. So this might be like Mark Bryant might actually be looking for a job.
That's what I'm saying. That's why it came to my mind, right? He could be looking. He was always a Monty Williams guy, and Monty Williams is not coaching right now.
But look at it this way. Who's the Knicks' chief assistant right now? Lead assistant. I know Mark played at Columbia. He was a Cougar. He was on a team with Jeff Kelly, right? And Owen Kelly, who I coached at Immaculate Heart of Mary in Maplewood. Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Mike.
And Bruce Hamburger recruited him. Bruce was an assistant coach at Columbia under Pete Cross, and then he stayed there, and he recruited Mark to go to Seton Hall. He worked with PJ. But anyway, what were we? So Mr. Brunson is like their chief assistant, right? Their lead assistant.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere.
Right.
That's part of the contract. I'm sorry. You want to be a head coach for the Knicks? Great. You got to take the kid's father.
So I would imagine that Leon Rose, who is like micromanaging everything, who has like an amazing analytics team right now, whose analytics team told them that Tibbs was not following their analytics, which is part of the reason that Tibbs is gone right now. And they have no one in the pipeline, which is kind of sad.
Yeah, I think that to me, there's nothing more irresponsible than firing a head coach without any idea of who you want to bring in, especially when you're talking about a team that's supposedly getting ready to take the next step.
Right. Who went to the Final Four? Who were a bad call away from being in the champ? Who was a bounce ball and from being in the finals right now?
I mean, it's not like Indiana, they were 20 and 61.
Indiana at home is up 5 right now.
Yeah, I mean, if the team's 20 and 61, maybe you want to have a nationwide search. You take a while to find out who's going to build a program. But what the Knicks said was Tibbs took them as far as they could. It's time to get a guy to take them to the next step. You got to know who that is before you get rid of a coach.
Right. I thought, absolutely. On Tibbs didn't follow. There was something I read the other day, very interesting, about Tibbs and analytics and not utilizing Cartwright with his ability to be a stretch and shoot threes, and lineups that the Knicks starting lineup in the playoffs were -9. You're not going to win any games with your core 5 players being -9. So there's they didn't like the way he was following their analytics department. So
I'll tell you, we all know I'm a Nets fan, and I'm very kind of surprised that the Knicks said no to Kevin Durant.
I think age had a lot to do with that. Scoop!
Wait, is this Luigi?
Luigi!
Don Corleone?
Luigi! How was the gala with Nicole? Luigi, you have fun?
He didn't go.
There was a picture of you and Luigi.
That was from the charity ball in 2022.
Oh, you go to so many events, we can't keep track. Oh, my God. Red carpet Gizzy. Bobby's right. Oh, my God.
No, you know what, Scoop, you're not wrong, because the Cowboys probably should not have fired McCarthy, right? Now they go totally blind with Schottenheimer, and, McCarthy had one bad year in 4. He had 13 wins 3 out of the 4 years.
Yep.
Bring back Tibbs. I thought Josh Hart supposedly said something like they should.
So did Dick Vitale.
Yeah, bring him back.
Yes, it was.
It was from 4 years ago?
Probably 3. 2020. Yeah, 2022.
Okay. It was a lovely picture.
It was.
Now, the other part of my thought about with the whole Mark Bryan thing is that our dearth of size, my God, St. John's is going to spank us up and down the court next year. They have size, they got speed, they got shooting.
But Bobby, what happens if God's will takes it to the next level? Then all that's out the window. I mean, people do improve from freshman to sophomore year. They're right now working on it. Summer is the time that you get better. And they're working out together right now as we speak.
But yeah, he should take a big step up for his sophomore year. But again, he has nobody. He gets into foul trouble, and we're in trouble again.
So right now we've got 3 guys who are about the same size. We've got him. We've got Stefan Payne, and we've got Sumanak. I can't pronounce it. I'm happy I can get there first. Patrick.
And Bobby.
Yes. So the question's going to be with those guys. All of them are undersized. All of them are very similar players. I think last year combined, the 3 of them took 2 3-point shots between the 3 of them. So, I don't know if Shah is simply going to rotate them through, if we're going to have another 3-headed monster at center. That wasn't particularly effective this year, or if one of the guys are going to emerge, or if it's simply going to be a question of, we're going to bring in Payne, and he's going to hack somebody and foul out, and then bring someone back in. I mean, I remember St. John's had a stretch of time where they had a bunch of big men who were people like Sean Muto, who were there to do nothing but foul out, and they were very good at it. But it did make the game more effective for the more offensive centers that they had.
We have spent a lifetime getting bigs and trying to develop them. And sometimes Romero Gill, we do. And Ike Obiagu, we do. And sometimes with Nicole's favorite, Shara Jew, we don't. So, and Jackie Kaba and players, so sometimes with bigs, you never know. Bigs develop later and you just don't know. But I am hearing that Coach Holloway, who we love, it wants to play like a 1-3-1 zone this year. So you could kind of hide your height deficiency, have your wings be a little bit aggressive, and on offense, run a little bit with Patrick or AJ Bud Clark, or not AJ Bud Clark, with Adam Bud Clark with the ball in his hand, running the show.
And I think that Bobby's point is well taken too. If you do want to develop a big, you need a big to do that. I don't know if it would be Mark Bryant. I know that Dan Dunn actually has a coaching school for big men. But I think Coach Shah himself would have a difficult time working on center play, simply because he's a point guard. And I don't know how much he would be able to teach that kind of play. I think he would need someone who had done it on the staff, even if you, as you pointed out, Nick, just as a volunteer for the summer.
Do we think that's possibly why Mamu was spotted on campus a couple of weeks ago?
Who?
Mamu.
Sandra.
That's possible. It is very possible that he might be there with the summer to knock God's will around and get him ready to play. It's very possible.
But the thing with Sandro, when he was here, was more of a stretch 5 than a in the paint down 5. God's will is not a stretch 5 by any stretch, no pun intended, of the imagination.
No,
God's will is post up, pick and roll, go to the hole, alley-oop, slam.
No, Nick, I'm going to disagree with you just a little bit.
You think God's will could take threes?
No, I think that Mamu could play inside very effectively. I thought,
but he didn't. Willard didn't play him that way.
Yeah, Willard let him go out and shoot his threes. But I can remember
to develop his game for the NBA.
Yes, but I can remember sometimes when he got the ball inside, and he had very good inside moves. He could put the ball on the floor. As a matter of fact, it used to make me crazy that Kevin was letting him develop his game, because I remember thinking you could go in. They were playing some teams that were undersized, and I'm like, this guy could score 30 points, and never get more than 7 feet away from the basket. Now, he needed to develop his 3-point game, or he wasn't going to get paid to play basketball. But I think that he certainly could teach Godswell how to play inside.
And by the way, your coach Bill Meyer recruited him out of Florida from Monteverde because Kevin Boyle had him, and Grant and Kevin Boyle are like best friends. So yeah. But do you remember the game? And I don't remember who we played, but we won at the buzzer with a put-in by Mamu. So yeah, he was inside. That was one of the best games that season or any season.
Cancer night.
By any stretch, that was good. Thank you, Scoops.
That was Seton Hall Cancer night.
Oh, I thought you said the answer, Nick. Oh, Seton Hall Cancer Night?
That was Seton Hall Cancer night when Mamu got
Cancer
that.
Prevention Night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When
Wear pink.
I was in the student section when he got that buzzer.
Awesome.
So good.
So
I missed it.
good memories.
So here we are. It's approaching July. Summer's here. The team is practicing. You mean to tell me there's no high school bigs out there we can bring in?
Well, they're probably all gobbled up by now. They're all done.
Yeah, but a lot of it, like we mentioned a million times, like the Patinos of the world are even looking at high school. He has recruited 2 players, but a lot of people's focus is on the portal now.
Yeah, but I think the high school kids all signed by signing day.
Yeah.
Yeah, May 1st.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit harder to find a high school kid who's going to be available. There might still be a big left in the portal. I just don't know, who that would be.
Let me check now. While we're talking, I don't know if you can see anything. All right, so here we are again. I do have to contact Coach Boz about the live show.
I messaged Coach Boz Happy Father's Day, and he messaged me back, and he's like, I want to come on your show anytime. He loved our show. Loved it. And it was awesome. So
we're gonna blow that show up and our show up next year big time. I got some ideas. In fact, we should, somebody has to have, here we go, my guy Bill, someone has to have a contact within the Setonian. We should have an article written about us.
Honestly, yeah, why not? Maybe Nick
they're always
knows.
looking for stories, right? We got grads, we got fans, we got parents of grads. We have current students. We got Eli coming in, a new student. And Bill, yes, my guy Insane is still there. So you don't have to think if they can't fill 2 scholarships that he gets one of them, right?
You would think maybe that's the plan. Did we ever find out, is David Gabriel still at Seton Hall?
Yes, he is.
Definitely.
Yes.
Okay.
He talked to Nick Morgan.
So maybe David Gabriel and Mabe are going to get those scholarships.
Yeah, Gabriel has been trying to work with athletics to get that tweet taken down because he never talked to no one about that.
I think it's more than the tweet, because if you go to Evan Maya and put his name in, Evan Maya has him in the portal.
Yeah, he never declared.
Where's the guy from last year, Muhammad? Could we bring him back?
Possibly.
Yeah, I can't find anything here.
How much do they want?
Yeah, see, that's the whole thing. All right. So here's the settlement is done, right, Paul? We're all pretty much ready to go.
Yep,
they're all ready to go. It is done.
So when does the check start for coming out?
So I don't know. I don't know how the contracts work. Okay, the players are signed to NIL contracts with the schools. I don't know how the payment schedule works, and I don't know. I don't know if there's a standard contract yet. Like the contract template that you would start with. So I don't know when they start making their payments.
I'm very curious about. There's a certain, I don't know, maybe Paul, but you might know this. There's a certain year that they have to go back and pay these players, right?
Yes. 2013, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
So there are guys that have been sitting on their couches for about 7 years now, or more, you know, they're going to check in the mail all of a sudden.
Yes.
Kadeem Carrington, Desi Rodriguez, Ike Obiagu, all these guys are going to get checked. Mike Nenzi, Veer Singh, Miles Powell, they're all going to get checks.
Now that money does not come from Seton Hall, though.
No.
The money
No.
from the players that are gone comes directly from the NCAA.
Right.
Right. So at least that's not going to impact our
How do
budget.
they decide how much the players get?
I don't know. I don't know how they're going to split the money up.
Do they get an equal amount?
I don't know. I can't imagine how they could do anything else, because they're currently not. There's no market to determine what those guys were worth, right? That market's closed. So I would imagine that they're going to just get a share. Maybe it might go by how many years they played or something like that. But other than that, I can't imagine that they're going to be able to do anything other than just split the money up. It's a good chunk of money too. I'm not exactly sure how much, but it is the pool for that settlement for the class action suit is significant.
And that was in Judge Wilkins said that money has to be split up by the NCAA. That was part of the agreement.
Yes, that's part of the agreement. The NCAA has the responsibility of fund. I don't know who's splitting the money up. The NCAA has a responsibility for funding the pool, right? Just like any other class action suit, the NCAA puts money in, and then individuals can make a claim if they fit the category.
So Seton Hall doesn't give them a list of players. The players have to say, "Hey, I was on the team and I want."
Just have you ever worked at Fort Pendleton and drank the poison water? You made a large cash settlement.
Yep.
I'm sure that there's a set of law firms that are going to go out and solicit from players. And it's that's not just basketball. It's any college athlete that played in this time period. Football,
do they have to be a scholarship athlete?
Again, I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I don't know that much about how the players, because it doesn't impact our budget for the future. So I haven't really looked into that. But there is a significant pool of money, and these guys will get a cut of it. I just don't know how they divide it up.
Guys, real quick, I'm on On3's page right here. Now, I'm not sure I don't want to say the word validity. I'm not sure how accurate this list is of their best available players in the portal right now. First couple guys are guards, point guards, shooting guards, small forward. We have plenty of them. So they're listing a Ante Brizovic from Zagreb, 6'10" center from Charleston University, or College of Charleston. All right, a 94 ranking. Supposedly
that's high. That's high. That's high. High, yeah.
Okay, we have going down the list now. We have power forward 6'7" senior Jacoby Coles from Grand Canyon, who played in the NCAA last year. We have another center from right down the road in Lafayette College, right? That's in Pennsylvania, over the border.
Yeah.
7'10" center senior Justin Vanderbane, a 93 rating.
6'10".
6'10".
Okay, I thought you said 7.
No, 7 foot. 7 foot center. We got a guy from Nova, Enoch Bayoke. Again, they could have already signed it. Maybe it's not updated. But, a 6'10" power forward. Peyton Sparks from Ball State, 6'9" center. They're out there. Could be out there.
Now, I got a name for you. This guy is declared to be in the NBA draft. He's from Michigan, and his name is Wolf. David Wolf. Okay? I don't know. Remember we talked about RJ Lewis being in the NBA draft and being able to – I don't know if you can pull back, when you can pull back.
Too late.
Too late now? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's too bad, because this kid Wolf is a kid I want.
Unfortunately, I was reading. I'm getting ready for my Nets with their 5-4 picks, whatever, this next week, and CBS Sports had 10 names you should know besides Cooper Flagg, and he was one of them, Danny Wolf.
Yes.
So he's going. Another guy here, Malcolm Wilson, 6'11" senior from Queens University of Charlotte, 6'11" center.
Mm-hmm.
So again, like I said, we don't know how accurate this is. If it maybe has been updated, but I would think On3 is a pretty reputable source. And it appears there are some centers out there yet.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a junior, Steven Jamerson from San Diego. 92 ranking.
Can you search players by name on that on On3?
I don't.
Can you put in a name?
I would have to check. I don't see it from the initial thing here. Who you think?
I want to see if they have David Gabriel.
Oh. Guess you go by school. Oh, so we isolate best available centers. So the Zagreb guy, the guy from Lafayette, Peyton Sparks from Winchester Community College. Oh no, from Ball State. Guy from Wake Forest, 7-foot center. 6'11" center from the Queens University. I said, Jameson. So I mean, they're out there. How about Josh Gray from Brooklyn, New York, Missouri? He's out there.
Let me ask you guys this though. We're talking about getting players, and we have some centers right now. The way I'm looking at it, our centers right now are better than our centers last year, correct? Or our bigs?
So the question is, how much is, I think Stefan Payne is the question, right? God's will this year will be better than God's will last year, right?
Right. Payne will be better than what's his name? Gus the Bus.
So like the only question is Okorafor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Payne will be better than Okorafor.
And I think Sumanak will be better than whoever.
Yes. So
Gus
I think
the Bus.
Yeah. So I mean, we have improved there.
Yeah, I think we have. I think we've improved all around. I think we have a point guard in Clark that isn't going to dribble, stop, pat and chew up 20 seconds of the shot clock. I think we got the real deal. I'm very high on Clark. He's going to be a player.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I spent some time this afternoon doing a little research on Clark, which I'd like to share if we're ready to do that now, Bobby.
Paul, real quick. You know who's in here?
Who?
Femi Adukale.
Aduka, where he's from?
We had him 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. Well, what goes around comes around.
You know what's interesting about Clark before you start, Paul? Clark averaged 4.5 rebounds last year.
Oh, yes.
Probably made him third on our team. And he's a point guard. They list him as 5'11", which means he's probably 5'8" or 5'9".
So I'm just going to go through a couple of the notes I made on Clark. I made some notes on Clark. I made some notes on Fisher and a couple on AJ Stanton McCray. And those were the three guys we said we would talk about tonight.
A point guard and 2 shooting guards. Yes.
That's it. So first, Clark. So I think that Nick, you just said it best. He was the be-all and end-all for Merrimack last year.
37 minutes a game.
That's right. He plays it. And if you look at his last 3 games, I think he played 124 minutes in the last 3 games that Merrimack had last season. He leads the team in scoring. He leads the team in assists.
6 assists a game, 19.8 points.
And third on the team in rebounds, as you pointed out.
Wow.
There's a stat called usage, and it measures how involved you are when you're on the floor for your team. Okay? And it's some combination of how many shots you take, how many assists you get, how often you go to the line. An average would be 20% because there's 5 guys.
Right.
His usage was 36%.
I believe it.
Okay, Luke Dove. I can't say names. Dovic, the great NBA player, is another guy who had a 35% usage. So this is a guy who has been the whole team for Merrimack for 4 years, or for actually no, not for 4 years. Yeah, because he'll be a junior next year.
Played 31 minutes a game his first year, 37 minutes a game his second year. Shot 46% from the field first year, 44 second year.
Now, the issues that you have with him. So, and actually, one of the things that's interesting is Merrimack plays a zone. So, one of the things I read is that it's hard to measure his defensive abilities because they were in a zone. So, if he's not
And he
in a
stayed
zone,
out of foul trouble by playing that zone. That's why he could play all those minutes.
that's right. But
Yeah.
you're talking about having Seton Hall play a zone. So he's going to be the point man in a 1-3-1 trap. That seems like it's going to be right up his alley in terms of the way he played defense last year. The issues with him obviously is of course his height. He's only 5'11". He's only 155 pounds. So he's a small person. And he's not a good 3-point shooter. I mean, he's not a good shooter.
Well,
he gets
to the hole.
Yes, he gets about half his shots are in the paint. So he gets to the hole. He's a very good passer, and he's a very good interior passer. So now I think when you put him on the team, obviously he's not going to be able to play 38 minutes a game in the Big East, right? I mean, he would die of exhaustion if he had that many minutes. And obviously in the Big East, you can't have a 36% usage. You can't be that much a one-man team in a conference like ours. But he could do a lot of everything. And I think that he is going to be the real deal. And I think that having a point guard who knows where the open man is, which we didn't have last year, I think is going to be an enormous advantage. So I'm a little bit high on this kid too, Nick.
Very high on him.
And I think that there's a reason why he was the first guy that got signed.
And he's probably our highest ranked guy in the portal. So you agree with me that it's an upgrade?
Oh, absolutely. Well, we didn't have a point guard last year.
Well, Garway was
Yeah, but I mean, Garway was up and down. They'd give the ball to Dylan and let him handle it. He wasn't a great ball handler.
Dylan was not a point guard, but he was forced into it, yes.
And so, when you look at, a guy who's a ball handler and a guy who's going to know how to run an offense, I think that he is definitely going to be an upgrade over what we had last year.
100%.
So that was my take on him. Now, the other guy we were talking about is Elijah Fisher. And
From
I
Pacific.
From Pacific. Now, this guy, I think, is almost the exact opposite. He has been...
Can I just say one more thing about
sure, go ahead.
Adam Bud Clark real quick? Interesting, because you guys were saying, well, Big East and Frank Accardio, if you're out there, you were saying his production going to drop off being in the Big East. This kid had 32 points at Stanford, and he had 22 points at Bobby's favorite school, RU Rah-Rah. So, yeah, he likes the challenge. So, big things out of Adam Bud Clark.
Well, the other thing, too, is if you look at now he averaged almost 20 points a game.
Right.
But he was incredibly consistent. He didn't have 30-point games and 8-point games.
Right.
I think he played 31 games. I think in 20 of them, he scored at least 18 points.
Yeah.
So this is a guy it was at Merrimack. That's the MAC. That's Fairfield and Canisius. It's not UConn and St. John's. But he consistently, night after night, was going out and putting up his numbers. And I think that one of the things that I found very frustrating last season is you never knew who was going to play well,
right,
and who was going to play poorly. Even Isaiah Coleman wasn't great every night. So that's the take on him. Anything else, Bobby? You want to jump in on him, or
I think you covered it pretty much.
Okay. Well, the other guy, Elijah Fisher. Now, this guy is fascinating to me. Okay, he is a 6'6", 220-pound swingman. So that's a pretty big guy for a guard, right? It's one of the few positions where we will be oversized. The 6'6", shooting guard is a pretty big guy. Now he has played at 3 different schools in 3 different years. He was very, very highly hyped out of Canada. He was a 5-star recruit at Texas Tech. And he was something of a bust at Texas Tech. And then his second season, he went to DePaul. And let me put the bio up over here. And at DePaul, he again was playing. He played 30 minutes a game, and he was getting
31 minutes a game at DePaul.
Yes, let me just check his stats. So,
but he shot 52% from the field.
Yeah, he shot 52% from the field, and he shot 26% from three.
Seems like another guy who took the ball to the hole.
Yes, and he is very much a guy who does that.
Yeah.
And then he was at Pacific. His 3-point percentage went up a little bit, and his points went from 3 points at his first year at Texas Tech to 10 points at DePaul game to 15 points at Pacific. His minutes went from 12 to 31 so he's about a 32-minute a game player. So what I think is interesting about this kid, because I read a little bit up about him, he's supposed to have been. He's not a good shooter, and not just a 3-point shooter. He doesn't shoot well off the dribble. He's one of those guys who needs to jump stop before he gets his shot off. And so, the knock on him was that he had a lot of athletic talent, and he tried to get by only on his athleticism. So now he's coming in into a program with a coach that I don't believe will tolerate a guy who doesn't want to improve his skills. And I think that this is really his last chance. This was a guy who, as a freshman, thought he was going to be in the pros in 2 years. So this is his last chance. If he buckles down, if he works on his game, if he works on his abilities, it's skills as opposed to just his talent, I think that he can be a really, really good contributor because he's used to playing 30 minutes a game.
The other thing, and I agree with you that my son said last week at a question, there's going to be competition, and these guys are going to be pushing each other for PT. And I think that's a great thing.
Well, we said it when we looked at the stats, right? If you add it up, there's 261 minutes a game from last year on this team, and there's only 200 minutes to pass out. So if you want minutes, you're going to have to play. And so I think that Fisher could. It's weird to talk about a guy who's playing on his fourth year as having a big upside. But I really think it's what's going on in his head. And if in his head he's decided he wants to play, and he's going to work on his game, I think he could be a really, really good contributor to this team.
So he'll slide into the Isaiah Coleman, Chauncey Jenkins spot, right?
That's right. And if not, we'll know by December.
Right.
Now, to your point, Paul, again, we mentioned the possibility of a couple bigs out there, a couple centers out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have they have a plethora of playing time available to them. We are so guard heavy right now.
Yes.
So I'm surprised that's not attracting anybody. He wants playing time.
Well, when we were looking at the playing time numbers on our last show, I looked at it and I said, we've got 3 guys now, God's Will and Payne and Patrick, whatever, who did not, if you add up how much they played last year, it's less than 30 minutes. So if you're going to play a center for 40 minutes, that's more playing time that has to go away from the swingmen. So there's not that many minutes to pass around between all these guys they have. And so to Nick's point, there's going to be a lot of competition. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how Coach Holloway deals with that. Is he going to try to keep people happy? Is he going to basically just say, hey, look, this is the minutes. Whoever plays best gets them. And if you don't play well, you're going to go sit down the end of the bench, and I don't want to hear you whine.
Well, Paul, what it matters is what were these guys told? What are the expectations? When they came here, I'm sure Shaw's not telling anyone you're getting 35 minutes a game. That's not
absolutely
right.
And I think every one of them has to think that way. And I think in Fisher's case, I kind of like to think he went from Texas Tech and DePaul to Pacific. It's almost like he went down to the minor leagues for a year. And Pacific is not, that's not a power conference. And I'd like to think that maybe he has improved his game. Maybe he went down there to work on his game. And when we see him, we're going to see a player who's a little bit more polished, a little bit more under control, and a little bit less relying on his sheer athleticism. And again, if that's not the case, we'll know before Christmas.
But let's say this about him. He has proven he could average 10 points in the Big East.
Yeah,
and we don't have
right.
too many other players that we could say are proven that they could do that.
Absolutely, that's true. He averaged 10 points at DePaul as a sophomore. So certainly he's got the capability there. And so I think that those two guys are very, very important to the team. I think that if they work well together, share the ball, and both of them play up, that there's enough other guys around that can fill in. Right? I mean, you have a really good point guard and you have a really good offensive option, and you're way ahead of a lot of teams already.
So guys and gal, I guess, are we better than right now? Are we better than last year?
Too soon to tell.
Rough guess.
I would say on paper, we are.
Yeah.
On paper.
Does it get us out of the basement?
The papers don't tell us how well they're going to play together. So that remains to be seen.
Yeah.
But I am more optimistic now than I was at the end of last year. So
I would say it this way. There is more talent on this team than there was last year. There are better if you look at the basketball players on this team, compare them to the basketball players on the team last year, this team has better basketball players. They have a better point guard. They have better offensive options. They might even be a little bit better inside. Okay, that's my take. But to Nick's point, having better talent at a couple of positions doesn't necessarily translate into more wins. And we talked about last week that this team has to be put together as a unit. There are decisions to be made about playing time. There's decisions to be made about what the defense is going to look like, about style, about leadership, who's going to be the locker room guys. And all of that has to, and I was going to say all of that has to be worked out, but that isn't stuff that gets worked out. That's stuff that happens organically.
Yes.
Right. I mean, something magical happened 2 years ago in December when we played our first conference game. And I remember commenting on it. All of a sudden, that team got better. And I don't know why. Right? Kadari had been struggling. The shooters, Davis and Dawes couldn't throw the ball in the ocean. Bediaku was struggling. And then all of a sudden, that team got better. And, something organically has to happen to this team. And if it happens, the pieces are there for this team to be very surprising. Does that translate into, into 7-13, or does it translate into 13-7 in the league? That only time will tell.
But to Bobby's point, 7-13 is 5 points, 5 games better than last year. So are we going to be better than last year? I think it's safe to say we are, because last year we won 2 games in the Big East, and we're next to last in the NCAA in scoring at like 60 points a game. So I would say we're going to score more than 60 points a game. Little doubt in my mind, because we're going to have a point guard who's going to up the tempo and get other people in scoring position and going to score himself. So I just think our pace is going to be quicker. And I think, yes, we're definitely going to win more than, knock on wood, if we don't. But, yeah, we all think we're going to win more than 2 games. It's just a question of how many more.
And I will say this. We're going to be a lot more fun to watch next year.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, I'm going to play devil's advocate, if you guys don't mind.
Sure.
What happens first? We suddenly find some kind of money for NIL in addition to what we're supposed to be getting from the NCAA, or Coach Shaw gets frustrated and gets poached by somebody who has money, because we know how great a coach he is. What do you think happens first?
Well,
loyalty only goes so much.
So this coming season, I think, is not going to tell anything. right? The NIL deal came too late. I know that I've heard very much that the administration didn't want to start making commitments using the revenue sharing money because they weren't sure that it was going to be there. So I don't know exactly what happened there, but I believe that this team is still running on a very small budget. I think the next season, the 2026, 2027 season is where we'll see that. I think that this year it's just going to be Coach Holloway coaching the team that he put together. I think to some degree he should get a pass because the NIL situation was so up in the air. That's my take.
Yeah, but if Louisville comes calling again, sorry, Nick, and Louisville comes calling again with all their coffers and basketball money and in a basketball hot area, does he say no again? At what point does it get frustrating for, and we're Seton Hall lifers. We're frustrated, right?
Right.
Well, but in fairness, he's a Seton Hall lifer too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. At what point does it get frustrating and say, look, I tried my best here?
I think a lot will depend on. I think a lot will depend on how the team does next year.
Because here's the other side of the coin, and this is probably the number one thing that has to be fixed with college sports, and it goes to college football as well. If you're going to sign these guys, like we have signed our players this year, we mentioned Clark and whatnot, there's got to be some sort of 2-year commitment. Because all it's going to keep festering and growing and in an ugly way. We could have a pretty good breakout next year from 2 or 3 players. And if they have eligibility, they're gone the next year. Like we mentioned a few times on this show, we've lost our best player 3 years in a row.
Well, that can't happen anymore. That has to be number one. Retain your good players, especially if you have a winning record. Like, we can't afford to lose a Kadari again.
Yeah,
just can't.
Bud Clark has to stay for 2 seasons, right?
Yeah.
He's going to be a junior. If he stays and then we lose him next year and, we lose him in conference or we lose him to a team that's on television, then I can imagine Coach Shaw wanting to go with him.
I've said this before. I mean, like the Parcells line. They want Shaw to cook the dinner and they got him, he's obviously bought the groceries. We don't know how much he spent on those groceries. But looking at this and this model and the stats, this is Moneyball. These are guys with decent stats at lower levels who you're projecting them up. Last year, the stats of Gus the Bus, and they were abysmal. Mm-hmm. And this is true Moneyball. Billy Beane would be proud of this. Let's see how it translates. But this is Moneyball. You agree, Paul?
Well, I think remember the part of the Moneyball model was to look for guys who other teams would be overlooked.
Right.
So we got a point guard who's 5'11". Right. You could imagine.
But it's also stats. It's looking at stats. Not so much if you could run a 40 and you're 6'5", whatever. It's more to do with performance.
Absolutely. And you look at Clark, right? You say that somebody might look at him, a coach might look at him and say, this kid's too small.
Right.
Yet he's putting up 20 points a game. Correct. And getting 6 boards.
Moneyball.
Yeah, exactly. Now you look at somebody like Fisher and you say, okay, this were his stats and they were good at Pacific. But you also say this is a guy that another school might not take a chance on because he's played at 4 different places. This will be his 4th school. And you say, you know what, we're going to take a chance on him. We're going to take a chance that his head's in the right place.
So you want to talk about AJ, the other guard, the other shooting guard?
Yeah, unfortunately, him I know less about than anybody else. I was watching him, looking at some of the stuff around here. So again, he's 6'4", 195.
From the Miami Hurricanes.
Yes. So this is what's interesting about his career. Okay, this is a guy, he played at Samford for 4 years. Okay, and I think he got a COVID year. Okay. He goes to and in his time at Samford is, as a freshman, he's playing 26 minutes a game and getting 10 points a game. Then the next year I think he took a red shirt because he only played 3 games. And then
this is his, not to interrupt you, his 6th year of college basketball.
This is his 6th year, correct.
6th year.
Okay. And so he's averaging 8 points a game, 11 his final year at Sanford, getting about 23 minutes. And then he goes to the University of Miami. And at the University of Miami, two things going on there, right? The coach there, Laranga, quits in the middle.
Jim Larinaga.
Larinaga quits in the middle of the season.
Yep.
Right. So in my mind, it's hard to assess a guy who's in a situation that's that chaotic. Right. The coach just announces, day after Christmas, hey, I don't want to, I'm 75. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm sick of the NIL. I quit. I'm wondering how do you deal with that if you're a player, and how much can we look at his stats and say, we have some idea of how those are going to project.
Well, he shot 41% from 3 2 years ago and 32 last year, which would probably make him the best 3-point shooter on our team.
Well, with the possible exception of Jacob Dar, he probably is. And the question is, there's two ways to look at that. One is that's the difference between defense in the Southern Conference and defense in the ACC. The other one is he just had a bad shooting year. Sometimes guys just have bad years. Again, we saw it with Dawes, that he couldn't throw the ball in the ocean in November and December. And then all of a sudden he was a shooter and he kept shooting. I was trying to look at his game by games to find out if he just had a very bad stretch. And it really didn't look like there was a long stretch last year where he just shot poorly and then he got better. So I'm not really sure about that.
Scored 21 against Virginia Tech in a loss.
Yeah, and 22 against Louisville. So he's had a couple of very big games. You look at his 3-point shooting, and it got a little bit better as the season went on. He had a 4-6 game. He had a 3-6 game. And at the beginning of the year, he was 3 for his first 6, 12, 15. So, he had a very poor start, in terms of 3-point shooting. So, again, I think that he can be a better shooter. I think that I don't know if he's going to go back to his 40%. Last year at Samford statistics, but I think that he could be a good shooter in the Big East.
And he shot 2 years in a row over 80 from the free throw line.
And Bobby, that was the other question you asked us before. Do we think the team's going to be better than they were last year? They're certainly going to be better from the foul line.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
There was no question that the guys that they're bringing in, because as Nick pointed out last time, doesn't matter what conference you're in when you're shooting foul shots, right? Basket's 15 feet away. And so, if you're a good foul shooter in the Southern Conference, you're going to be a good foul shooter in the Big East.
And these are guys that can get to the line.
That's right.
Which is more important, or as important.
Now, we should probably address Bill Hathaway's question. How much did Seton Hall get out of the settlement? Because it's actually, that's not how the settlement works. And I think a lot of people think that is how the settlement works. Seton Hall isn't getting any money out of the settlement. No. What Seton Hall is getting is permission to spend up to $20 million of its athletic revenue on players. Before, no school could actually pay players for anything except for their scholarships. And now the NCAA, based on this settlement, has changed its rules. And so Seton Hall can contribute up to $20.1 million to pay its athletes above and beyond their scholarships. The question, of course, is where are you going to get the money from? And, what is Seton Hall's revenues? And what is their profits? And do they have $20 million to put into the pool? And interestingly enough, we were talking about this last week as well. There are schools like Michigan and Penn State, schools in the Big Ten, that have revenues of upwards of $250 million and that are operating on a loss. Okay. And we've talked about Rutgers. Rutgers athletic department is a taxpayer sink to the state of New Jersey. Okay. I'm just taking my tax money and throwing it away because they run that athletic department at a $30-40 million loss every year. So I guess they don't care if they want to run it at a $60 million loss and pay $20 million to their players. But I will be looking at that won't be a candidate profile in the gubernatorial election. But if I go to a debate, I may ask the candidates, how do you feel about funding the Rutgers athletic department? And I'll wear my Seton Hall jersey so they'll know where I'm coming
their
from.
last AD got a little jammed up, right?
How is Peichel still have a job, by the way?
How does who?
Steve Peichel still have a job.
They're high on him.
But I mean,
2 5-star recruits.
Yeah, I mean, that was what I was going to say. They were supposed to go places this year, and they didn't go anywhere. And I like Peichel. I mean, at least I did before. I always thought he was a good coach. But how do you get two 5-star recruits that are going to both be in the NBA draft and finish with a losing record?
I don't get it.
So Bobby, that was my full thing. We could talk. I want to, we have not talked about TJ Wilkins at all. He's sort of been the forgotten guy. He was the second guy that Coach Holloway signed. So we should probably take a look at him next week.
Sure.
Absolutely. And people wanted in-depth. We just gave them in-depth. You can get this nowhere else. Not with Daniel Webster, whatever his name is.
I believe we have. I think I'm DJing next Wednesday night here, which is fine because I think we should do a show anyway on Thursday because NBA draft. I think Wednesday is the first round.
So you're the house DJ at Villa Roma?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, before we go, with the other thing that we wanted to talk about was the situation in the WNBA.
Yes, yes, sir. Team CC, where she go? Gizzy?
What?
We're gonna talk little CC. We're on the same team.
Caitlin Clark.
So, like I said before, Mr. Nick from Milburn, what has Paige Buchers done this year and so far in the WNBA?
I have not heard anything about Paige, but I have heard a ton, and not all good, about Caitlin Clark. And the other night, there's using a baseball term, a little rhubarb. They got a little feisty. And so what happened, and correct me if I'm wrong, is J.C. Sheldon was aggressive defense against Caitlin Clark. And the refs were allowing it, maybe a little bit too aggressive. And she basically poked Caitlin Clark in the eye. Caitlin grabbed her eye, turned around, and shoved Sheldon. And then Marina Mabry from Notre Dame, Bobby's school, and from New Jersey came over and gave her a chest thump, or I don't know, and slammed her to the ground and laughed about it. And Caitlin got all flustered. Now, one thing we know about Caitlin, don't feel sorry for Caitlin. Caitlin's a big trash talker, totally. She brings a lot of this on herself. So anyway, later in the game, J.C. Sheldon steals the ball, going down for a layup. Sophie Cunningham, who played football in high school for a boy. Well, there's no girls football team in high school. Sheldon, if you look at the play, got her shoulder into to Sophie. Sophie wrapped her arms around, tackled her to the ground. A melee ensued, and Sophie, who is a black belt in Taekwondo, got some type of chokehold or something on Sheldon, and it was feistiness personified. And I think Sophie Cunningham got tossed, and now her jersey is a number one selling. I mean, I think Luigi Wyndham is walking around with a Sophie Cunningham jersey right now. I mean,
now, Nick, I do have to ask you a question.
Yeah.
You just said a melee ensued.
Right.
Other than kickoffs and melees, does anything else actually ever ensue?
I did use the word ensue.
Yeah, that we, you know,
So
there's been ensuing kickoffs. Melees have ensued, but other than
Yeah.
kickoffs and melees, I don't think anything else ensues. That's truly a sports word, Nick.
There you go. I've watched 1 or 2 games in my day, so yeah, that's where that came from. So what do you guys think about? I know, she's a trash talker, and everyone's talking about this, and it's probably great for the league. Interesting stat, and again, when she got hurt, right before she got hurt, that game, the tickets were selling for $85. She gets hurt, and they drop down to $7 to $8 a ticket. Mm-hmm. So she is the golden goose of the WNBA, and for whatever reason, the other players don't like her. I think it's because she's a trash talker, and she's very good. What do you guys think about what's going on?
Well, the first girl poked her. They were rivals in college, right? So
Sheldon, yeah.
Ohio State, right? So
yeah,
they were
right.
They're battling for 4 years now, going into the pros.
Right.
So,
did she overreact?
You know what? That might be the first time I ever saw her react. Usually she just walks away.
Yeah.
But here's the difference between last year and this year. And that, as you said, it's Sophie Cunningham, who's an enforcer.
Yep.
She's the Dennis Rodman of that team.
Yep.
She is going to go get in your face if you get into one of her teammates' grill.
Yeah.
And the thing you got to admire about Caitlin Clark, her first game back against the best team in the league, she destroyed them.
So I need Nicole's position to be sexist. I need your permission, please.
Okay.
Thank you. So Nick made a comment about, this is great for the league. I do not think it is good for the league at all.
Ratings went up.
I'm sure, but I'll tell you why.
Why?
Because when you actually consider it from the point of view of pure basketball, the WNBA, in terms of caliber of play, is no better than Division III men's in college. It may not. I think
that's generous.
Okay, it may not even be that good. So if you're a basketball fan, why do you want to watch it? I want to watch it because I don't want to see. I want to see class from the players. I don't want to watch. If I want to watch a bunch of thugs, I can watch the NBA. It's already there for me.
Or you can watch the NHL.
No. I mean, those are hockey players.
But you can argue the women's game.
That's
is
a
more
different
physical.
tradition.
The women's game is more physical than the men's game.
And that could be the case, but I'm kind of I'm trying to get away from. I want to watch role models, and that might be asking too much for the women of the NBA, of the WNBA. Certainly there's a sexist aspect to that. I'll be perfectly willing to admit that I'm expecting more out of them in terms of personality and behavior than I am of the guys in the NBA. The reason I am is because I think that the caliber of play won't make up for it. So I don't want to see Caitlin Clark shoving somebody or the other woman getting thrown down on the ground. I want to see them play with some class. Because again, if I want classlessness, I've got a whole host of professional men's basketball sports to watch. I got the NBA, I got Major League Baseball, I got the NFL. I'd like to go someplace where I don't have to watch this BS. And so even though you're right, Nick, the ratings did go up, I think ultimately I think it's going to at least turn at least some people off.
You can argue that the level of play with Caitlin Clark has gone up also.
Well, she is.
Yeah, right. It has.
You also got
to tell you real quick. I purposely sought out the time and the channel to watch that game on Sunday because I knew Caitlin Clark was playing the Liberty, I think at 3:00, and I wanted to watch that game.
Right.
When's the last time? Now, mind you, I used to work for the WABA, director of broadcasting, so I've been involved with women's basketball for a while. But I wanted to watch that game because I know the last time they met, when she got hurt, Caitlin Clark, it was a close game until the end. And then the one lady that the Liberty got to play defense is the one who stopped her, and they won the game because of that. So I think the rivalries are getting there now. The other side of the coin is Angel Reese, who people are actually betting and making money on her because she cannot make a shot.
She's a bully.
She's a great rebounder.
She's a bully.
She cannot make a shot.
She's the best player in the league. Just ask her.
If she's a bully, what do you call what Marina Mabry did?
I didn't see what she did. But I'm going to say
that was a thug play.
I think the biggest problem with the WNBA is that most of the girls prior to Caitlin Clark coming in are entitled, spoiled brats, and they are jealous.
Whoa. Whoa.
No, I'm serious. Caitlin Clark brings all the attention, and they're jealous as hell.
Nicole, I don't know what you make for a living, but it's safe to say you make more than the average WNBA player. They don't make a lot. They all have to get second jobs off after the season. I don't think they're entitled.
That's the problem. And Nick, real quick, just interject real quick. I want to think every woman in that league should be making at least $100,000.
And they're not.
Right. At least $100,000. I mean, you're right. To watch these players work their butts off,
they tear each other apart.
$60,000 or $70,000 is atrocious. Yeah, they're not. You can't compare with the NBA money yet, but you cannot tell me with all that added attention and me searching out to watch this game. I'm not the only one who did. People are searching out to watch Angel Reese games. People are searching out to watch Paige Bucher games, right?
Yeah.
You cannot tell me you cannot pay those ladies at least $100,000 minimum per player.
Oh, it has to go up. Their revenue stream has to be more.
So that was going to be my question. I know that they're the CBA for the WNBA is very lousy.
And it's up.
And I believe that and it's up. And I believe part of the reason it was lousy was because the players were willing to allow the owners to invest to try to grow the game. But to your point, Bobby, the game has grown, and there are fans of it. And remember when we were talking about UConn and saying that there were fans of UConn's women's basketball game that don't care about the men. I think that's starting to happen where people are watching the WNBA not because it's on, but because there's a woman player they want to watch.
Yep.
Exactly.
And the thing is, too, you got the rest of these WNBA players who are not getting that same attention, and that's why they keep tearing Caitlin Clark apart. But they're bullies.
They're not bullies. She's a trash talker. Oh, my God. She is chirping all game. She sticks out her damn tongue after a basket.
Because she knows she's got it.
Well, now speaking of your guy, of your guy, by the way, we need what's the feminine equivalent of the word guy?
Guy.
Okay, guy. Good.
Guys, it goes both ways. Nick, right?
Good. Okay.
Ask your friends. What's up, gals? You see gals or
gals
guys?
doesn't work for me, and girls is ridiculous. But your guy, Paige. By the way, Bobby referred to her as Paige Buckets, which I think is a great nickname for a basketball player. Right? Because she's just going to hit as many buckets as she can.
Dougie Buckets.
She is averaging, for someone who's disappeared, she's averaging 17 points a game.
There you go.
And 5th in the league in assists.
Right. She's just she doesn't have a target on her badge because she's not a trash talker.
Well,
yeah, our argument from the beginning of our argument on the show was, right, Nick? Who's better? Who would you want to start your franchise? Caitlin Clark or Paige Buckets?
Caitlin Clark.
And it's far right now that Caitlin Clark is your number one player.
Oh yeah.
I still like Paige. Paige won a championship in college.
You don't have to win a championship in order to prove your worthiness.
Why?
Because you don't.
But a lot of players aren't even like. If Aaron Judge doesn't win a World Series, is his career a bust?
No.
Well, some people might say it is.
He's a Dan Marino. Dan
Marino, is he a bust? He never won a Super Bowl.
I don't know who that is.
You don't know, my God. You did find out who Adam Sandler was, right?
Yeah.
Guys, we have a new show in our hands. First will be the Yankees show, and the show after that will be teaching women about sports history 101.
No, Nicole knows a lot about sports. She doesn't know a lot about pop culture. She doesn't know anything like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, just pick a name. She won't know who they are.
If it's hockey, I'll know it 100%. I know like every single NHL player there is.
I don't know. I want to be very careful about getting into this space because a while back I was watching the Grammys and somebody got a Lifetime Achievement Award and I had no idea who this person was.
Who was it?
I don't remember, but whoever it was, it got a Lifetime Achievement Award. And I like music. I like popular music, but I don't have any idea who this is. The person who got a Lifetime Achievement Award, and I didn't know who it was. So life is passing me by at age 60, and I would be concerned if I had to go what do you call it, person for person with Nicole over things that have happened in the last 5 years.
Well, me too. It's generational, and that's the thing. But who played Al Bundy again?
Ed O'Neill.
Who?
Ed O'Neill.
So Ed O'Neill was at a party, and this very nice young lady came up to him and said, "Mr. O'Neill, can I take a picture with you?" And he said, "Certainly." And he took it and he said, "I'll take one with you too," and put it on his phone. But he didn't know who she was. He texted it to his daughter, and his daughter said, "You idiot, that was Taylor Swift." So that sums it up.
Well, my daughter sent me a picture after we had lunch, after we had dinner, of herself with Taylor Swift's mom.
Oh my gosh.
Mrs. Swift.
Yes. So she says she's friends with Taylor Swift's mom. I said, no, you're not friends with her. You took a picture with her once. But apparently when Taylor was at MetLife, she got floor seats and Taylor Swift's mother was walking through the audience and my daughter recognized her and got a picture of her.
I love that.
Nicole, are you a Justin Bieber fan or is that before you?
I was a Justin Bieber fan.
You were a believer?
Yeah. I had a life-size cutout of him.
Oh,
if Justin Bieber was a stock, Jess and Christina, my daughters, bought him at a nickel. I took them to the Nintendo store. I don't even know if that's still there. And we saw Justin Bieber. And, oh, my God. It was another time we saw Justin Bieber. And Jess walked up to him and said, "Justin, did you get the necklace I sent you?" And Justin said, "Yes." And it was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Oh my God.
I loved it. Jess started going, "Oh my God, Justin loves me. Justin loves me." That kid had no idea. He was trained so well. He was like great. It was great. So yeah. Do you know what? She was almost the one less lonely girl. That's a true story. You know what that is, right?
Yes, of course.
They were friends with Scooter Braun, and Scooter said he was going to pick her out. And then he saw them afterwards. He goes, "I'm sorry, something happened and I couldn't get to it." And they just thought it was BS till they saw the documentary. And that night, that concert, Justin lost his voice and Scooter was like in panic mode. So it was true. If Justin didn't lose his voice that night at the Rock, Jess would have been one less lonely girl. But it's a good story to tell.
By the way, you referred to Ed O'Neill as Al Bundy.
Right.
Nicole, do you know who Al Bundy is?
I've heard the name. I don't know who it is, though.
You've never watched Married with Children?
Nope.
How about Jay Pritchett?
Nope.
Modern Family?
Nope.
No idea. No idea. No idea.
I grew up on Disney Channel. I grew up on hockey, TLC, any of that. I don't really know anything that's like...
What do you think about the passing of George Wendt?
Who?
See, Norm on Cheers. You heard of Cheers, right?
I've heard of Cheers, yes, but I've never watched it.
Do you ever watch MASH?
No.
Oh my God.
What about Miley Cyrus?
Yes.
Yes.
I was a diehard Hannah Montana fan.
You were a Hannah Montana fan?
I was Hannah Montana for Halloween a couple of years in a row. I'm pretty sure.
I don't know. I see a whole bunch of possibilities here. On the show, teaching the the Gister.
Well, she's teaching us too, because I don't know any of these hockey players. Yeah, Barakov and Smirnov and all these other guys she's talking about. I have no idea who they are. Like she knows the third string goalie for Winnipeg or Ottawa. I have no idea.
I mean,
Like she is a hockey expert. We can bust her on a lot of things, but her hockey knowledge is better than all of us put together. Absolutely.
That's why she has her own show coming up. Just
No argument there. But Nicole, did you go to the Best of Both Worlds tour when it was at Giant Stadium?
No, I was too little, and my parents would have probably never gotten me tickets because I would have remembered it. But I did see Miley Cyrus after she got rid of the whole Hannah Montana thing at Prudential Center. It was probably like the first tour after she like got rid of her second life.
Nicole, you've heard of Billy Joel, right?
Of course I have.
I was at a Billy Joel concert at the Garden, and Miley Cyrus came out and sang New York State of Mind. You could look it up on YouTube. It was amazing. And she can sing. That young lady can sing.
I have a friend who went to like 15 Billy Joel concerts. I'm not joking. Like she would go to every one of his shows.
Oh boy! So it looks like the Pacers are dominating.
Oh yeah, Pacers are running away.
So is it safe to say that Tyrese is playing tonight?
Yes, he is.
You got a shot, I guess.
I saw because what do you call it? Blue, the Butler Bulldogs mascot.
Oh jeez.
Oh God. She knows that. She knows Blue.
I love Blue. He's adorable.
You got to get the Hinkle. You absolutely have to.
I want to. I really do. He posted this. And it's captioned, "If dogs had calves, I'd give you mine, Tyrese."
Oh boy.
He's adorable. I need to go.
So Nicole, quick hockey question.
Okay.
Which local team has the best shot of making it to the NHL finals?
Stanley Cup Finals next year.
Which of the local teams? Which one is best equipped?
I mean, it's kind of too early to tell, but I'm going to be biased and say probably New Jersey, since they were the only team that actually made it to the playoffs this year.
That's fair. I'm a Ranger fan, but that's fair.
And Chris Kreider's now a Duck, and the Islanders are pretty much rebranding. So we got to see what's going on with them.
Nicole, did you ever get a chance to look up Gabby Kiger?
I did not know. I was at work.
So Gabby Kiger went to went to Seton Hall, was on WSOU when it was still decent. And sorry about that. before, but it was still decent when she was there, and she works for the Florida Panthers.
Really?
Yes, and was on the ice with all those players you're talking about.
Gosh, I love
look her up on
her.
Facebook. Seton Hall alumni, Florida. You would love her, Florida Panther fan.
I love that for her.
Yeah, tell her. You're Nick from Milburn. She probably still remembers me. We lost some road game, and they had a 3-hour haul line, and yeah. So.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me look.
So collectively, to keep talking about our previous plan we kind of hatched on this show. I don't want to mention names because I don't want any copycats out there to steal our idea. Nick, you know who I'm talking about. Our friend whose dad owns a liquor store right by you.
Whose dad owns a liquor store?
The wine library.
Oh, he owns it. No?
I'm saying, his dad owns it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So, but we know what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So, and we'll talk about that offline. But I think this show collectively can single-handedly save Seton Hall basketball. We can get this guy into our house somehow.
He does have the financial wherewithal, and he is in the sports. They have an agency division.
And now Springfield is Union County, right?
Yes.
Vienna borders Milburn, right?
Yes.
So you can say your neighbors.
If you cross the street from his store, you're in Short Hills. Yes.
Okay. So here's how we work together. Paul does the research. Nick and I do the introductions or get them involved. And Nick, here's where you come in. We got to bring this. We got to work our system. Get him in next year as the commencement speaker for the graduating class.
Oh, there you go.
Right. That's how we. Oh, Paul, definitely. Yeah, let's work on that. I'll put you in the chat, Paul.
All right, great.
Yeah, because I want to start working on that. That's my first big documentary project. So we got to. I think that's the only way we're going to save our school team. Unless there's another local billionaire out there that, So we get this guy involved somehow.
Now I've got a question. The summer workouts, can the public attend them?
No,
I don't think so.
I didn't think so, but
No, what I got invited to one a while ago. They do invite a long time ago with Willard. They do invite certain people to certain practices. They do. I think Willard did more of that than Shaw does that, but yeah, it's really invitation only.
Yeah.
Does Willard get booed this year?
Yep.
Oh yeah, they booed Kadari. They're gonna boo Willard to death. They didn't like him when he was here.
I know you're a fan, Nick. I wasn't a fan.
I love Kevin. I love.
I know.
But yeah, but our fan base didn't think. Nicole's not a fan of Kevin. So.
By the way, there was an article in CBS Sports last week. It might still be up there in the college basketball section that he finally came around and kind of apologized to the Maryland faithful about what he did.
But he never apologized.
How he did it. So that was an interesting read if you're on CBS Sports in the college basketball section.
So he apologizes to Maryland, but he just kicks us to the curb and no apology whatsoever. Okay.
Well, I think that these guys have to develop some level of etiquette. We know that guys are going to move around. We know coaches are going to move around. We know the players are going to move around now. But there's a way to do it. You finish the job that you're at before you start.
Exactly. That's my whole point is why I can't stand him.
You shouldn't be sitting there at getting ready to play in the NCAA tournament, but you're actually recruiting for a different school. It should not work that way. And that's just that's just good manners. At the end of the day, there's no excuse for bad manners.
And team, we have our first troll.
Oh, that's good. I think that's a good thing, right?
Well, it takes a certain amount of attention to get trolled.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you see it?
Oh, I thought it was going to be Ben Webster, whatever his name is.
You have been poking the bear all shows.
You have to have fun.
So we got a Seton Hall sucks. Go St. John's. Oh, I hate St. John's.
No.
St. John's is entering that Cowboys, Eagles, Red Sox territory for me.
But I think we dislike Patino more than we dislike St. John's. I think St. John's isn't close to the dislike of Rutgers. They will. Hey,
no, it's cool, man. No, we enjoy it. We appreciate that.
Well, remember, we have the official position of this show about Rick Pitino is that he has embraced the NIL. He's embraced Rapoli. He's not a hypocrite. He's just a thief. And
God.
Don't forget the hair dye.
And I wouldn't want my wife to hang around with him. That's the other one.
Nope.
Almost sounds like that song, "You're So Vain" is written about him.
Yes, Carl Simon.
But the guy can coach.
Yeah, I mean,
if he was our coach, you'd love him.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And all would be forgiven.
Right.
If he was our coach, there wouldn't be a problem with any of that stuff.
Right.
And you got to remember, as a Yankee fan, I booed Roger Clemens for years and years and years. And then when the Yankees got him, I said things like, you got to allow guys to pitch inside. He's not a headhunter. And for the 5 years he was there, he was fine. And as long as he was winning 17 games, all was forgiven. I think the only Yankee that I didn't forgive was A-Rod.
The perfect example of that is Billy Martin, right? When he was a Yankee manager, we loved him. But when he was ever Minnesota, Texas, everywhere else he was, you hated him.
Oh,
And
you
that
absolutely hated him.
That means he's a great manager.
I think that Nicole, do you know who Bobby Clark is?
Name sounds very
Hockey, Flyers, Broad Street. You know who the Broad Street Bullies were, right?
Yes, Bobby Clark. Yes, Philadelphia.
Bobby Clark was the most hated man in North America outside of Philadelphia because he was dirty and he was sneaky and he was good.
Oh,
and everybody in the country, everybody in the whole continent hated him except for Flyer fans.
Scoop's a Flyer fan.
Then we played the Russians in the Challenge Cup series, and he broke the ankle of the Russians' best player with a cheap shot on a stick. The guy was coming down for a breakaway goal, and Clark didn't hook him. He actually whacked him in the ankle with his stick and broke the guy's ankle. And for about a month, this was the Cold War days, Bobby Clark was a hero in all of North America.
But
then
Paul,
the NHL season started, and we all went back to hating him.
Paul, love you to death. You know that. But you made a point before about the WNBA being violent and feisty and all this stuff. But that was 30 times worse than anything the WNBA.
The
NHL in those days with Dave Schultz. Tell her about Dave Schultz.
Oh man, well if you ever want to have some fun, Nicole, Google Bruins Madison Square Garden brawl. Okay, and take a look at the YouTube video of the Boston Bruins brawl in Madison Square Garden.
1979.
Yeah, I believe so. Yes. Okay. This scene features the Bruins.
Is this when they went into the stands
and they beat the guy with a shoe?
Yeah.
I remember seeing this. I used to watch like complications of hockey fights. I watched outbursts. I love it. I
was watching that game. I was 14, and we had that game on television. And I'm like, guys, somebody took one of the Bruins sticks, and Terry O'Reilly, I think, went into the stands and beat up a Ranger fan with his shoe. With the Ranger fan shoe, not with his shoe. He took the shoe off the guy and beat him with it.
Yeah.
I tell you, that's hockey.
Right. And that was a million times worse than anything Sophie Cunningham is doing.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, when you tune that in, you were actually looking for it.
All right, folks. Winding down here on a soon-to-be summer Thursday, right? Tomorrow's summer.
Summer.
What's amazing? It is June 19th, and we just went an hour and a half of Seton Hall basketball, basically, and other stuff, and it was entertaining, and we had fun. I mean, we could just keep going. This is great.
And we got a troll.
And we got a troll. But what happened to the exotic car guy?
I know, we got to bring him back too.
He never paid his sponsorship invoice.
And it's good. And so, John Coffey, you're our official troll from now on.
John, we love you.
Good way. Thanks for watching.
You're welcome back anytime.
Here's how we know we have an issue. I don't know if you guys can tell us or not, but everybody who's commented, they're commenting on YouTube. That's the red button.
Oh, okay.
So we got to figure out.
What's happening
with Facebook.
Nicole, as executive producer, come on.
You're a cybersecurity person. You got to figure out.
Nicole made it so secure people can't get on it. Oh, the exotic guy's here.
All right, here's my guy. What's up, my guy?
We got people we don't even know about watching this show. Come on. Nicole,
Jersey Exotics, I mentioned 5 centers that are still out there in the portal. We can't pay them, obviously. Maybe a car? Maybe an Escalade or something? What do you got over there?
That's old style recruiting, Bobby. That's the way they used to do it in the 70s and 80s. The kid would show up with a sports card.
Moses Malone, right, Paul?
Yes.
The famous sports Lefty Drizel gave Moses Malone a Cadillac or something.
And he didn't go to Maryland.
Hey, John, listen, John, I'm glad you said this, only because, hey, we're Seton Hall grads here, most of us, and are definitely fans. I don't hate UConn right now because my guy is sitting there.
Danny, we love Danny.
Danny Hurley.
We love Danny, and two of us love Gino.
Well, no, but don't speak for yourself, Bobby. I hate UConn. I grew up.
I mean, most of us.
I grew up in New Haven, Connecticut. You know what it's like growing up in New Haven, Connecticut, hating UConn. You go to a different college, and I'm going to tell you this. Okay, I am an undergraduate. I'm at Yale University. We are playing UConn. They are beating us by 45 points. Okay, halfway through the second half. We have a whole bunch of kids who are going to go on to be attorneys. They have a whole bunch of kids who are going to go on to play in the NBA. They had Cliff Robinson, and they had a bunch of real good guys. And there are these two old guys sitting next to me in the stands, screaming, okay, at the UConn guys, pour it on, keep scoring. I'm like, you're winning by 45 points to a bunch of. And our tallest kid is 6'7". You got 6'11" Cliff Robinson. Okay, he doesn't have to do anything. He's standing 6 feet away from the basket, holding the ball like this. You know, it's like when you play your little brother, you know, and these guys are just so excited. And I'm thinking to myself, I hate you people. And I will hate you my whole life.
You had Justice Kavanaugh playing point. I mean, come on.
No,
he wasn't that good.
Real quick, before we start off, speaking of, no, I'm sorry, I went the wrong direction there. My bad. I was going to say, that's Nova. How does Jay Wright turn down the Knicks, by the way?
He probably just doesn't want to coach anymore.
I think it's really that simple. I mean, he got one of the rumors has been that he got out of Villanova because he didn't want to deal with NIL.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you want to go coach professional athletes? I mean, that's even really putting your head in the lines.
But
He's got three of his players here.
They're his kids, though. They're his kids.
Well, that's true.
Go win. Give it 2 years. We don't win with these guys in 2 years.
It's like a reunion.
Window. But you can literally walk in there and win a ring with a ship in the next 2 years.
You just got to get DiVincenzo back.
No one's going to want to go and listen to Leon Rose and his analytical computer. No name coach with experience is going to want to do that. I'm sorry.
Now, Nicole can address this too as an expert in cybersecurity. When you look at analytics and you look at things like Gen AI, the important thing is not what those things spit out as an answer. The important thing is what's the right question to ask them.
There you go. Right.
And I think that's the problem with analytics is that they're not asking the right questions.
No.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly.
Well, hey, I'm super encouraged by the end of the show. We got people responding. We got people on YouTube watching, which is awesome. Again, we just got to figure out this whole Facebook thing. If not, I'm switching us over to somewhere else.
We got a cybersecurity expert. I mean, come on. What did she do here?
I didn't do nothing.
Did you block it so people can't, are we so secure people can't watch us?
No.
Bobby, who's an expert, who's got years of experience, goes and does it, and he's like, Nicole, you blocked me.
Hey, John, good night, buddy. Go
Bye,
UConn.
John. John, come next Thursday night, John.
And Jersey Exotics, thanks for being there. You know, it's awesome. We definitely have the only thing about summer, again, I was mentioning summer's tomorrow, which means tomorrow's the longest day of the year, and it's all downhill from there, right?
Pretty much.
It goes the other way. But here's the best thing about summer. It leads into football. And next thing you know, it's going to be Big East Media Day.
Yeah.
And it starts all over again. And I'm pretty excited to see how our men's program develops, being so down. And I'm really super excited what Coach Boz has with this women's team. And, I want to be in a position next year, and hopefully a bunch of us that, they're playing in the NCAA. I want to be there and support them,
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Have any of you guys ever gone to the beefsteak dinner?
No.
I'm going to go this year.
Yeah, I think I'm going to try to figure out a way where
Maybe get a
the
table.
core four of us can get there. Because I've been there like the last 4 or 5 years, and I think we would have fun.
Has that like little promo shirts stuff about the show?
Yeah. Well, we could actually do interviews, and I
Business-
know Coach Boz would be open to it. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Business cards.
Yeah. I mean, I already have a next step ready. HHH Sports, that's to be the company name, and just start doing this. Paul Justafan, any final thoughts on the eve of summer?
Well, I think that we should keep on doing our player profiles. We should talk about Wilkins.
Yeah.
We should talk about Jacob Dar.
So wait, who do you want to talk about next week?
Well, I don't think anybody has talked about TJ.
TJ Simpkins?
TJ Simpkins, yes.
TJ Simpkins.
I think if I'm going to be an expert, I should probably learn the guys' names. What do you think? That's probably table stakes.
You're the show research guy, historian. So.
Yeah, I should get the names right. Right now, I sound like Al McGuire, right? I didn't know the names of the guys on the teams that he was when he was broadcasting. But I'd like to talk about Simpkins, and I'd like to talk about Dar, and I think I'd like to talk a little bit about Josh Rivera, who has been around and sort of a forgotten guy as well.
Perfect. Good.
And I'll see what we could do in terms of how those guys are going to fit in. And at some point, the women's team should be better. So we talked about, are the men going to be better? The women's team, I think, should be significantly better.
Oh, 100%.
Right? I mean, we've got the 2 guards coming back. The only major contributor that we lost was Faith. And, several people are coming in to replace her from a talent level.
And
so I think
pick me back.
Yeah. So I think that they're that is going to be, the question's going to be, how competitive can you be? There's, NCAA tournament competitive. There's playing with UConn competitive, and there's beating UConn competitive. And I'm not sure we'd be at the 3rd level on the women's side, but I think we could be at the 2nd level. It wouldn't surprise me if UConn's down 4 with 6 minutes to go in Walsh.
Now, for the sake of the program and the money we need to make, at some point that game's got to go to Crew Center, right? Make money for us.
Well, the only issue is when it goes to the Prue Center.
It's going to be mostly UConn, but
there better be 7,000 UConn Seton Hall people there, because otherwise it's going to be a UConn. It's going to be a UConn home game.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem. We can't barely sell out Walsh with our
Well, I remember Coach Boz. That was one of his goals was to sell out Walsh every game.
Yeah.
And 1,200 people. That should be. If it gets pushed right, that should be that should be possible.
Wait, I was at the UConn game. You couldn't get a ticket for it.
The UConn game is
UConn.
different.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, if you could sell out Walsh for every game, there'd be enough Seton Hall fans at the Prue Center that it wouldn't be a complete road game for the Hall if they're playing UConn at the Prue Center on the women's side.
Only one way to find out.
That's right. Give it a shot.
Or you could somehow do a doubleheader. They used to do that back in the day.
Is there a 6,000 seat venue in this part of New Jersey that could host a game like that?
No.
All right. Because that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see the women playing in a building that seats 5,000, because I think they could that they could actually at least half fill a building like that. We were talking about that with Coach Boz last time as well. That Rutgers had gotten to a half filling the rack every time.
That's kind of why we need our own on-campus facility, right?
Yeah, I mean the consensus is always there's just no place to build it, right? There's no logical place that you could put a facility like that.
There's no. When we owned when we owned Ivy Hill Park, the Archdiocese owned that. That would have been the only place, but still, the infrastructure of getting cars in and out would be a problem.
Okay. So that's my final thought. We need to take a look at the women too.
Yeah.
I was at Kansas a few years ago, and they not only have a 17,000 seat arena on campus, they have baseball and football. It's insane. All the land that they have in the middle of wherever that is. Yeah, insane.
Lawrence, Kansas.
Lawrence, Kansas. Yep. Great place to visit.
Nick from Melbourne, final thoughts.
So when I say 3.537, Nicole, what does that mean? 3.537.
GPA.
GPA, very good, of our athletic department, which is a record. So, whatever, got to remember, we're a school of higher learning. These are student athletes, and somebody's doing something right because that's a very good combined GPA, 3.537. And let me go on my parting thoughts. I want to just ask Nicole a question. Nicole, what's going on at Bar A? When is this shindig? What's up?
Bar A is this Saturday from
This Sat? Are you
It's gonna be
going?
hot.
Yes, I am.
Bobby, are you going to Bar? Oh, Bobby's working.
I'm working.
So Bar A. So tell me about. Is Luigi going with you?
No, he's back in Mississippi.
Luigi's in Mississippi.
That's where he lives now.
I did not know that.
That
Yep.
doesn't seem like a good fit.
For Luigi, I'm sure there's not too many Luigis in Madison, Mississippi.
Yeah, he moved there.
Here's
Did
their
he
final
move
thoughts.
for employment? Is that an employment opportunity?
He moved there initially for school, but he just fell in love with it so much that he stayed there another year.
Wow. Is he gainfully employed in Mississippi?
Not yet.
Oh.
Working on it, but not yet.
Well, guess their final thoughts. My battery's about to die on my iPad. So
Wow.
Bar A. Tell us about Bar A.
Yeah, so Bar A is this weekend. If you haven't bought your tickets already, check the group. I've posted the link several times. I'll also post it again once more as a final reminder. I will be there. We're so excited to welcome the class of 2025. We have a private area this time. We got a band. You get free barbecue. You get 2 drink tickets included with your purchase, and then anything else you want, you gotta pay.
What day? Saturday or Sunday?
Saturday from 2 to 6 at Bar Anticipation in Lake Como, New Jersey.
Wow.
And my final thoughts, because I am not going to be on the next 2 shows. I'm on vacation starting next Wednesday.
Wait, you don't have a computer on vacation?
I'm going to be out of pocket.
What?
I'm out of pocket starting Wednesday. Like, I'll be on my phone, but I'm going to probably be out to dinner or stuff, or who knows what we'll be doing. But yeah, I'll probably watch what I can, but
Our ratings are going to go down precipitously next week. Come on, Nicole.
I promise I won't.
I mean, we just lost John and an exotic car guy. They're not going to, if you're not on, they're not watching.
I need a vacation.
You need vacation.
You're away every weekend.
You're 23 years old. What do you need Oh my God.
It's the family vacation.
Well, one last thought from me. The NBA finals are going to bring us the two best words in all the sports.
Game 7.
That's right.
Game 7.
My final thoughts, again, my 2% is going to die soon. True story. In the front desk, we have 2 young guys who work, both named Zach. One was a huge Knicks fan. One's a huge Thunder fan. I told Zach, the Knicks fan, my apologies to Nick. I go, Zach, it's going to be Pacers in 6. Oh, you're crazy. What happened? Then I go, the other Zach, I go, Zach, I don't think the Pacers are going to win, but this is going 7 games. Oh, you're crazy. What's happening? We have a game 7. So now, every time I see them, they have to say, Bobby Blackjack knows his sports. I am right more often than not, and I've been calling this the whole damn thing. Anyway, yes, we have the holiday season coming up, so check our Facebook page, social media about the next show. We should be on next week. We'll do an NBA NBA draft recap. I know the Knicks have any picks next week? I don't know. I haven't seen anything about the Knicks at all.
Nick, you might have Scoop on next week.
I know the Nets
Live from No one can replace you, Nicole.
Nope. So on behalf of my team, again, go Seton Hall. Let's keep this momentum going. We have some homework to do. We have a special guy we're trying to get into our fold, and he could be our savior. So let's say a prayer, 7 Hail Marys, and Our Father, and hopefully it comes to fruition.
Have a good night, guys.
And we'll
Thank
see
you,
everybody
guys.
next week.
Good
Nicole,
night.
enjoy your vacation.
Good night, Nicole. Have a great vacation in Wildwood, right?
Thank
Wildwood.
you. Yep.
Enjoy.
Take care.
Thank you.